What's up, Rustin?
Hey, good morning. Happy
Good
Friday.
morning. Happy Friday. Can you believe another week living the unemployed life?
Yeah.
Well, it's been kind of a up and down week for me personally. There's been a lot of stuff in the news, as you know, about unemployment and how much it's skyrocketed. I actually read in the Wall Street Journal this morning that the U.S. Labor Department reported 6.6 million people filed for unemployment last week. We were
Mm,
two of them. And then since March 15th until April 4th, there's been a total of 16.8 million unemployment claims, the highest jobless rate since the Great Depression.
It's astonishing.
It's really sad to think about.
Yeah.
And we know a good 248 others from our previous company who are going through this, and it's sad to see us all kind of grasping at straws a little bit. And we know that it's really hard to kind of rebound and get another job at this point because so many companies, as you and I have started our job search, we've realized that they're freezing hiring, positions are being eliminated, nobody's really hiring.
Agreed.
So
Yeah, it's difficult to navigate out there. Some of the things we'll talk about, that is what we'll talk about today, because you could look at a job board and see that there's 400 positions in your field open. You're like, oh, this is great. But that's not the reality. I mean, truly, there's maybe only a handful of employers that are actually hiring. The recruiters at these other positions, it's either on hold, they've been asked to do other positions, so they're saying stop recruiting, you're doing sales right now, or stop recruiting, you're doing admin work or whatever else is needed because other people have been let go or there is that freeze. Yeah.
I know, exactly. And I know you and I have already talked about this, but I've had a kind of an up and down week. I had two top prospects myself for future employment, and the one I was most excited about, I got on, I prepared 5 or 6 hours, maybe even up to 7 hours for the interview, got on the phone interview yesterday with the director of sales enablement, and within the first 3 minutes he let me know the really sad news that the CRO just the afternoon before decided to pause the position and they wouldn't be moving forward.
Yeah.
So yeah, starting to feel a little bit of hopelessness, starting to feel a little bit of, I don't know how long this is going to go on for, unemployment, but I'm so excited that we're going to talk about the remaining three things that people who are still employed today, and even those of us who are already unemployed, can do right now to better prepare ourselves for being unemployed and prepared for doing this for the long haul. Right,
Ag-
Rustin?
Agreed. Yeah, today is all about those that are employed. What can you do if you find yourself in the situation? And then those of us that are in the situation today, like, here's some things you can be doing today. You know what I mean? Because again, you have a network out there, so let's utilize it. But let's talk a little bit more about how.
Totally. Great. Well, let's jump into our last three tips and actions you can take today to prepare for sudden job loss, because I think as the data shows, this is going to continue to unwind. More and more
Yeah.
people are going to lose their jobs.
Yep.
So if you missed our video from earlier this week, I will link it down below so you can watch our first three actions you can take today. But let's jump into the first one. Our first action today is looking at your psychological needs. So thinking about losing your job suddenly, it is like almost like a death, right? You go through the stages of grieving. You're sad, you're angry, you're in denial. It takes a while to process through that. I think for me personally, a big part of my identity and fulfillment in my life is just from my job and the work that I do there. So losing that part of my identity was really hard to grapple with last week, and it was so sudden. So thinking about what you can do to prepare to kind of restructure your life without unemployment. What would you add to maybe psychological needs that people can prepare for, Rustin?
Yeah, for me, psychologically, I mean, just in personal, like, I thought it was interesting this week. I had done a really good job of dealing with this. You know what I mean? Like, just being strong-minded, being resilient, having that mindset of like, okay, today I'm faced with this situation. I'm going to work myself out of it. So having a different mindset. But it was interesting. I got the box to ship back my laptop earlier this week. And my daughter went to the door and was like, hey, Dad, you have a delivery from Thumbtack. I'm like, I do? Oh, I wonder, what is it? You know what I mean? And it came in this box. I was like, it's kind of light. I wonder, was it just my personal belongings? What was it? And I opened it up and it's like, hey, ship your laptop back. You know what I mean? And I was like, and so is that I wasn't prepared for that feeling again of that being disconnected and like hey, this is the reminder of like, you just lost your job and you're unemployed and you need to send your personal belongings back. And I wasn't prepared for that because I thought I'd been doing a great job, psychologically of dealing with this. So that's just it. You're going to have reminders, whether it's a TV ad, comes on and it reminds you of the company that you work for. Someone mentioned something about, you're talking to somebody else as you're networking and they're not aware that you lost your job. They just think that you're reaching out to them. So you're going to have to prepare yourself mentally to be reminded. But that reminder should also be the driver to say, okay, that chapter has closed. Take what you've learned and all the best qualities about that, document it on your resume, right? Talk about it, update your LinkedIn profile to show the accomplishments and the great things that you did. But there does have to come a moment where psychologically you have to just pull yourself up and get up and take that first step forward, because that's the most important, is getting up and taking that first step forward.
Absolutely. And that's actually what we have talked about before, is just control what you can control. And the last thing I would add there too is just think about what your day is going to look like when you go from working 8, 9, 10 hours a day. What are you going to fill your day with, right? Like maybe create a routine for yourself, and that's waking up at the same time every day and going to bed at the same time every day. Maybe it's having some personal space to read, making sure you reach out and you talk to someone via video or FaceTime every day. So just thinking about, because again, it will take its toll on you psychologically. So that's our first tip. The second action you can take to prepare for sudden unemployment is to look at your professional relationships. So if you think about it, really a job search is just a simple marketing exercise, right? You're remarketing yourself, you're reframing your personal brand, putting yourself out there, letting folks know that, hey, this happened to me. And although it's been really hard, I am ready to look for my next opportunity. Another thing too, I want to point out in terms of thinking about your professional relationships, I know for me, with a few people, it was a little bit difficult to be like happy for them or positive even that, hey, you're still working at the company that I love, doing the job that I love, or, that I didn't even have a choice in this. But really that negativity gets no one nowhere. It definitely doesn't get me anywhere. So just kind of try and put your feelings aside, or if you feel hurt, maybe deal with those for a couple days, sit with those feelings. But really it's only going to be to your benefit to continue fostering those relationships, even if you feel a little bit of bitterness, which is okay for those that were left behind. But just stay in contact with your team members. Let them know what's going on with you and that you're struggling, or you need their help with a recommendation, or you need their help on a reference list. What would you add to this one, Rustin, for professional relationships?
Yeah. So for those that were left behind, that's an interesting take for them. It's different than those who are unemployed, right? Those left behind, number one, like you said, be grateful that you're still there, right? But be humble about it, because you may be in the situation as well. Be responsible, and then also connect. So it's different than if you're in the situation right now, which is, I have a new opportunity. So being grateful about this opportunity that I have to explore new things, right? Being humble. We were humbled by this experience, but learn from it, right? Being responsible. So having the right conversations and taking the right actions. And then for us, it's important to disconnect. So we're doing so much of this that we still need to go take a walk, go spend time with your family, go spend time with your dogs, go spend time just meditating, whatever you do to disconnect. But in the roles that you're currently in, being grateful, humble, being responsible, you need to help others, right? That's the humbleness. Be responsible and help these others that are in these positions. You have a job, you have the security. Don't just sit back, go to work, and just sit in that security every day. Reach out and help others however you can. Utilize your network to help others, and that karmatic effect is going to help you in the long run. And then connect. And so instead of disconnecting, you need to connect now more with other people. So if anything, you have a larger responsibility than those of us here. We have responsibility, and we're trying to help each other. And we're trying to even set things up in case you're in the situation that you find yourself out of work. We're trying to set these things up now for you. So it's it takes a village. It takes everybody to work together. But it's almost a little bit more more responsibility for the people that are left, that are still there.
Yes, because you don't want to be in a position where all of a sudden you're laid off and you're like, shoot, I haven't talked to anyone on LinkedIn. I have 30 unread messages from the past 2 years. I haven't done any relationship building with these people that I've known for the last 10 years at different companies. So
Yeah.
again, this is a proactive thing that you can do right now, is start kind of like building your brand on LinkedIn, networking, letting people know. Just like if you see people posting on LinkedIn that they got laid off, like reach out to them.
Yep.
The notes that Rustin and I have gotten, like in terms of people just giving us their condolences and their support, have meant everything during this time. So you're
Exactly.
in a position where you can provide that support to others right now.
Yes. Yeah, I've had people reach out to me. They weren't offering help. They were just saying, "Hey, I'm sorry to hear about this." And that was just as meaningful as someone saying, "Here's a letter of recommendation," right? So all of it is helpful during this time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that brings us to our third and final action that you can take today to prepare for sudden job loss. And that is looking at what you can do personally to grow during this downtime. And the first thing that I've done just within the last 2 weeks is, number one, work with Rustin on this video series, because we feel like we both enjoy sharing our knowledge, sharing what's working for us, what's not. We're both trainers and coaches by profession, right? Sales, Rustin in the sales management area, and me in sales enablement, which is a supporting role for salespeople. And I think this just really gets us excited and keeps our passion going. It allows us to think outside the box and use the knowledge that we do have to help others. It's a creativity outlet for me, for sure. But another thing I've personally been doing to grow during these past 2 weeks is I've logged on to lynda.com. If you're not familiar with lynda.com, they recently were purchased by LinkedIn Learning, and there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of courses you can take on lynda.com to get certified in things. So for example, I took a adult learning course last week, and it was about 30 hours or so, and I got a certification for it, and I put it on my LinkedIn profile. There's everything from sales training you can take, to project management, to advertising, to how to work well and communicate on a team. Lots of foundational and critical skills you can build through lynda.com. If you're here in the Utah area, I know that if you have a Salt Lake County library card for any of the county branches here, you actually get free access to lynda.com. So that's how I access it. Rustin, what about you in terms of growth during this downtime?
Yeah. So for me, it's an idea of stay on top of your career. You should always be doing that, right? Like, not just because we're unemployed or the individuals that are left behind who we're talking to today. Like, you should just always have an inner, like a billet, or just this feeling of like, I just need to stay on top of my career. So what does that look like? That comes from continuous improvement, right? That continuous learning, that continuous growth. And so you should always have this feeling of, I need to learn something new. So the things you pointed out are excellent resources. Something we don't have today because we're unemployed, we don't have Salesforce, but Salesforce has Trailblazer, which is another thing that it's free. If you have Salesforce, you go on, they have Salesforce trainings that you can do, that you can learn as well, and you get badges. That also gives you a link that you can attach to your resume, and the others can go in and see all these courses that you have taken. So that's something I would say, like, for those of you that are in a situation to have it, utilize it, right? Do some of your own learning, and it's all kinds of things, from management, coding, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it covers a wide variety of things. It's just Salesforce's take on it, instead of, say, LinkedIn's learning. So definitely do that. But you need to take time to strategize, right? For the what if scenario. We maybe didn't have time to strategize. I feel I've done enough in my career to kind of have a built network and to have strategized over time. But if you haven't done that, then you talked about getting your financial stability, getting financial taken care of, getting your resume taken care of. But what are you doing to reach out to your network today and build your network today, right? Are you offering letters of recommendation so that when it comes time to ask for one, that it's reciprocal, right? So are you doing the things today to build a strong network? And then also, you paying attention to who's hiring, right? And what's being hired right now. What industries are hiring during COVID, because what you may go down this path and spend all this time saying, like, I strategize and I want to do marketing, but you go and find out that marketing in the area that you want to go, in the industry you want to go to, isn't hiring right now.
Right.
COVID's got it shut down and everyone's getting laid off. So that's where you also have to do your homework in terms of being prepared, and the learning that you have to do has to be, I have to go and network with individuals, looked at LinkedIn, you know what I mean? Like, utilize everything, but you have to be strategic and smart about it to see, these are the paths right now that I need to go down. And it's going to take time. You said it took you, you know what I mean? You did this course to get the certification, but that takes time. You may
Right.
have to take several certifications to get to the point that you need to be, and that may take a month to get there. So
Right.
if you don't start today, it's just going to put it off that much further. So start today and start down, strategize and then start down those paths.
Totally too. And I know, you had made the good point too, to one thing in terms of, growth that not only grows you as a person, but then will kind of set you up for success and something that you can do today. There are dozens and dozens of like free online assessments you can take in terms of like how you work and your personality.
Yes.
We were fortunate at Thumbtack to have taken strength finders. So now we have that paperwork and we can take that and show that to a potential employer to give them like an eagle-eyed view of like who we are as a person at work and what our strengths are and what we're working on. That would definitely set us apart from any competition. So gather those things now. If you've done Myers-Briggs, if you've done strength finders, if you've done a Gallup poll, go ahead and gather those things now and kind of review how you would market that to a potential employer to set yourself apart. And Rustin, I know you had talked about the Red Bull program, right?
Red Bull Wing Finder. Yeah, it's free. It's an assessment. It was lengthy. I believe it took about 3 hours, I think, you have to do it in chunks. And when it gets done, though, it gives you a very in-depth view of assessment of yourself and who you are, just as a contributor, right? Or as a leader, whatever position that you're in. And that's something I've actually shared. Like I have to look at right now, you gave the stat at the beginning of this episode to say, these are all the people that are unemployed. It's only going to grow. COVID's not stopping. If anything, the news says it's going to extend. So that number is going to increase. Hey, there's a job. I found out on LinkedIn, this job is available in my area. I'm going to go post for that job. Well, yeah, you and 6 million other people, right? So how are you going to stand out more now? It is going to be more difficult. So doing these assessments, doing strength finders, going to Red Bull and taking this wing finders so that you can include that with your resume, right? Like, here's my cover letter, here's my resume. By the way, here's these other things. Or can you include some of these things on your resume to point to it? And then maybe it's a click to link. And so when you do it, they can click to the link and it takes them there. Like, we have to get smarter about the way that you market yourself to stand out, plain and simple.
Yes. Well, those are our 3 actions that we have concluding this series. So if you've watched both these videos, we appreciate it so much. Comment, let us know what was helpful to you, maybe something you haven't thought of, maybe something you're doing now that we haven't thought of in these videos. But just to recap, the 6 things that you can take, 6 actions you can take today to prepare for potential layoff are: take administrative action, make sure that your files and documents are ready for access if you get cut off tomorrow. Evaluate your financial expenditures and your financial needs if you were to suddenly not get a paycheck. Third, career aspirations. Think about, what you want to do next. Take this time to really clear your head and look at your next move. And then number 4 is evaluate your psychological needs. Think about what it's going to be like to just suddenly lose your job, especially if you like your job, makes it extra painful. And number 5 is look at your professional relationships. Think about your network and how you want to market yourself as a new employee seeking another opportunity. And then 6 and final, think about how you can grow during downtime while you're unemployed. Especially as Rustin said, there's just going to be thousands and thousands of people applying for very few job recs at this time. So what can you do to fill your time and continue to develop yourself personally? Anything else to add here, Rustin, as we wrap this up?
No, I know we're getting to a close. Really, I think the most important thing is we're all human, right? And we need to treat each other as humans, right? If you're aware of somebody that is in need of help, now's the time to help, right? And if you find yourself in a situation where you need help, don't forget to ask for help, right? It's okay. Like right now, more than ever, that's why we're doing this series, these videos, is we're only offering help because people out there need help, and we're just trying to point people in the right direction.
Yep. Perfect. Well, thanks so much for joining, everybody, and we will see you in our next video next week. Bye.